Welcome to Agri-Pulse Newsmakers, where we aim to take you to the heart of ag policy. I'm your host, Andrew Hunnicky. Before we get to our interviews, here are this week's headlines. USDA has sharply lowered its forecast for food inflation this year. Lower prices for pork and dairy products are expected to offset higher beef and egg prices. The department estimates the cost of food at home will rise 2.7% this year, which is just 0.1% away from the historical average. Last month, USDA projected grocery prices would rise by more than 3% this year. Elsewhere, USDA is ending their pause on clean energy funding programs. But awardees can voluntarily modify their proposals to remove climate and DEI considerations and bring the projects in line with the Trump administration's policy for increasing American energy production. Programs impacted include the Rural Energy for America program, Empowering Rural America program, and the Powering Affordable Clean Energy program. All of these receive funding through the Inflation Reduction Act climate law. And finally, more tariffs are expected to go into effect next Wednesday, which President Trump has referred to as Liberation Day. The president has previously said that these tariffs would be reciprocal, saying, quote, "Whatever countries charge the U.S., we will charge them. No more, no less." It remains to be seen if the president will stick with that plan and how agriculture will be impacted. In a recent interview with Newsmax, the president said the tariffs will, quote, "probably be more lenient than reciprocal because it will be very tough for some people," but also added, quote, "we've been ripped off as a country like no country has ever been ripped off before." The threat of tariffs is causing a lot of uncertainty around agriculture and the economy right now. However, it's not just the tariffs. There's also the issue over the president's efforts to increase domestic shipbuilding. We spoke with Agri-Pulse editor-in-chief Phil Brasher about the concerns that's causing.
There was two days of hearings this week that the U.S. Trade Representative had on this issue. Again, a lot of concern about the increase in cost it could add to our exports for a number of commodities, soybeans, corn, you name it. What the administration wants to do, they're really trying to encourage a revival of shipbuilding in this country. They're they want to put fees on ships when they come to stop at ports if they're not U.S. built. Obviously, again, it add millions of dollars potentially to the cost of shipments.
Let's talk reconciliation now. Republicans, they're still trying to agree on that budget reconciliation bill. Senator Thune recently saying he wants to get a blueprint through the Senate before the Easter recess. Why is that so important?
This is by far the biggest priority piece of legislation that this Congress will consider, most likely. It's possible there could be two bills. The president, the House leadership in particular, wants to do everything in one giant bill. It can get through. It can pass on in a fast track process that bypasses the need to have any kind of Democratic support. So, included in this bill potentially, and we'll see how this works out. Senate and House still have to agree on how to do this, on the strategy, and on the details. And there appear to be a long way from an agreement yet. But that would include tax cuts, an extension of the 2017 tax cuts. Also, potentially, and this is under serious discussion, parts of the Farm Bill, including increased commodity reference prices, and potentially helping farmers, row crop farmers, weather this downturn in commodity markets.
And another thing we've also been talking a lot about in our reporting is layoffs and cuts at the federal level. What is the latest you're hearing on that?
Earlier this month, all of the departments had to submit plans for significant reductions in force, what are often known as RIFs, or layoffs. We just got the details from the Health and Human Services Department, which includes the Food and Drug Administration. There's 35 jobs that are going to be cut at the FDA. Now they're assuring us this won't be food inspectors. A lot of support personnel, focused on support personnel. But that's the first first we've gotten to what's happening in a major agency that affects agriculture. Still don't have the plan yet for USDA, but we are expecting that in coming days and weeks.
Phil, thanks so much. Where can our viewers find out more about our reporting?
Agri-Pulse.com, and we would love for them to sign up for a free trial if they're not already subscribers. But that's where you can go to get all the great coverage that we have on all of these issues we've talked about and a lot more.
Well, Phil, thanks for taking so much time out of your busy day to come and join us this morning. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We'll be back with our panel discussion right after this.
These are the farmers and ranchers who help build the America we depend on, and Farm Credit is here for them, supporting rural communities and agriculture with reliable, consistent credit and financial services. In good times and bad, we provide loans to farmers and ranchers, farmer-owned cooperatives, rural home buyers, agribusinesses, and rural infrastructure providers. We help agricultural producers feed the world. Learn more today.
I think some of sustainability to farmers just comes second nature. If you
Yes.
asked a farmer, are you sustainable? They'd probably look at you maybe a little funny and say, I don't think I'm doing anything that special, but it really is just what they do. We're all farmers, and our goal is taking the best care of our land, our cattle, our natural resources.
This is my sustainability story.
Welcome back to Agri-Pulse Newsmakers, where this week's panel is going to focus on the upcoming reciprocal tariffs. Joined today by Jaime Castaneda with the National Milk Producers Federation and Cassandra Kuball with the Torrey Advisory Group. I want to thank you both for joining me today. And Jaime, I want to start with you first, sir. President Trump's planned reciprocal tariffs, they're expected to go into effect next week. How do you see the dairy industry being affected by these, as well as some of the other tariffs that the president is imposing?
So the tariffs, just the threat of tariffs to Mexico and Canada have already had an impact, a significant impact. Just to give you an idea, a price for cheese, class 3, which normally leads the equation for whole milk prices, have dropped in a significant way. So we're talking about already millions of dollars affecting U.S. dairy farmers. We sincerely appreciate the president having actually a thoughtful process here on not imposing tariffs yet on both countries. We encourage the administration not to impose tariffs on Mexico. We understand that we have some issues with Canada, the same way that actually we have certainly significant issues with Europe. So I think that what we are asking the president is to not do tariffs on a broad way, but actually more targeted. And we encourage to actually the administration and the president to use all their power to once and for all try to address the imbalance in trade that we have with the European Union.
And Cassandra, I'd like to bring you into the conversation now. Which commodities could you see benefiting from these tariffs? And on the other hand, which ones could end up being hurt?
I think you can really break it down in part. This is all guessing because we don't know what's actually going to be implemented, whether it's going to be tariffs, is it going to be a variety of other requirements that are going to be implemented on our trading partners and what their reactions are. But looking at the comments in particular that a lot of food and agriculture industry, from associations to companies that have put forward with USTR, I think it's a bit of a three bucket type of situation. There's some commodities food products that certainly will benefit, especially those who have long faced barriers and have witnessed that constantly across a variety of markets. U.S. shrimp industry is one of those that has called out a variety of those barriers. We also have seen many comments posted, and I know Jaime just covered about where you still have some barriers for instance, in the dairy industry, but yet there also is much more market opportunity too that you want to pursue. So you're looking for more of that scalpel approach on trying to take down those very limited things that you really want to be able to tackle, while also focusing on the positive of increasing market opportunities. And then I think we've got the sector that is fear of a repeat of 2018 with that tit for tat with China. This is especially with our bulk commodities that are still trying to make up for exports lost since then. And that market loss, and that's not going to be able to be easily consumed purely domestically, or it's being also consumed by other challenges across other markets, taking some of that market share away from them.
And I'd kind of like both of your guys' thoughts on the next question. Jaime, we'll go ahead and start with you first, sir. How has the uncertainty around all of these tariffs been affecting farmers?
What I think that is going to happen depends of how the administration goes about on the reciprocal tariff. If it is, again, targeted towards trying to address and negotiate better outcomes for U.S. products, I think the market will react positively to that. If it is imposing tariffs in areas that actually we know the countries will retaliate, and unfortunately dairy could be one of those tariff lines that they do choose to retaliate, then you will see even additional impact. And this is why we, as a National Milk Producers Federation and the U.S. Dairy Export Council, we're talking to the administration to ensure again that the ultimate goal is to improve our market access into a number of different countries.
We'll be right back with more of our panel discussion, but first, Lydia Johnson takes a look at global shipbuilding in this week's Ag by the Numbers.
The Office of the U.S. Trade Representative is considering a slate of proposals to revive domestic shipbuilding and counter China's dominance in the sector. However, agriculture groups are concerned the proposals could introduce costly new fees for shipping operators at each stage of the export process. As you can see on this chart, China accounts for over half of merchant ships constructed as a share of gross tonnage. South Korea and Japan followed, accounting for the production of about 28% and 15% of global shipbuilding capacity, respectively. In 1970, the U.S. made around 5% of the world's merchant vessels by tonnage. This share had fallen to just 0.1% in 2023, according to UN trade and development data. Under current proposals, Chinese-made vessels could face surcharges of up to $1.5 million every time one docks at a U.S. port. Maritime companies say they'll reduce stops at smaller ports if the new flat fee is implemented. Read more on the impact of the proposals in Oliver Ward's story on agripulse.com. For AgriPulse, I'm Lydia Johnson.
Weeds, razor-thin margins, supply chain disruptions. American farmers need innovative solutions to tackle the threats that impact us all. Their yield is their livelihood and the food that feeds our families. That shouldn't be on the line. Which is why the Modern Ag Alliance advocates for access to essential crop protection tools, like glyphosate, to keep the future of farming in secure, hard-working hands. Get the facts and see what could be at risk.
Clean Fuels Alliance America is leading the way toward cleaner air, stronger local economies, and reduced dependence on fossil fuels. The industry uses more than 1 billion pounds of soybean oil every month to produce clean fuels. Biodiesel, renewable diesel, and sustainable aviation fuel deliver immediate reductions in greenhouse gas emissions in heavy-duty transportation industries. We're growing better, cleaner fuels for today and tomorrow.
Welcome back. Cassandra Kuball is a vice president at Torrey Advisory Group. We asked her how the uncertainty around the president's tariff plans is affecting farmers.
There's a lot of hope right now that some of this disruption will in fact result in new opportunities, but it isn't lost on the farm community that there is also concerns of long-term implications across not only end market for their products, but also how it's going to affect areas such as the cost on their inputs, how it's going to end not only an export market for domestic consumption. Comments have been raised from the restaurant industry of how any import tariffs might affect the industry there. How is that going to affect also domestic consumption? So it's trying to do the math and put all this together and what it might mean. It's really difficult at this moment to hedge when you see a lot of moving pieces right now in the policy space around how the tariff may be implemented. And again, we also are still waiting to see how other things might be implemented, such as getting into the 301 shipbuilding case with China, for instance.
Kind of move on to the topic of immigration now. I'd like both of your guys' thoughts. Jaime, we'll go ahead and start with you first again, sir. The president, he's cracked down on illegal immigration since taking office, but we know the agriculture industry relies heavily on foreign labor. So how is this crackdown affecting producers?
Most of the milk produced here in the United States comes from farms that have foreign workers. We believe and we take the president and the administration to the word that they have actually stated clearly that they're going after criminals. Obviously, sometimes in following individuals that actually have criminal records, they may end up actually finding other individuals that not necessarily. We have not heard broad approach in agriculture. So I think it has been more, again, looking at folks that actually have criminal records, that actually they understand where they are, and you have seen that very clearly in the news. We continue to express the importance of foreign workers for the U.S. dairy industry. We're going to try to educate and invite as many government officials as possible about the importance of foreign workers in the U.S. dairy industry.
And Cassandra, your thoughts as well, ma'am?
The U.S. agriculture industry is chronically faces that labor shortage, particularly when it comes to the seasonal and labor-intensive jobs in the industry. Recognize there's a study in 2019 that found half of all hired farm labor is of immigrant status. But what's not recognized, I think, right now is the fact that a lot of the changes in the immigrant the part of the industry that relies on that labor are finding that the immigrants themselves are not wanting to move around as much and do the seasonal type of jobs. They're wanting to settle down. So we're losing out on opportunities for bringing in folks in that space. What's needed, and I think being highlighted here also with Jaime, is recognizing what we need to have is a program, visa programs, anything else that recognizes the workforce needs. So being able to go out there and indiscriminately do any sweeps that may result in taking away farm labor will really have a catastrophic impact on the industry. And so the hope is, with recognition of the needs in agriculture, is also the needs of a reliable workforce, whether it's entry level, but also at other ones that require the visas necessary for them.
We'll be back with more of our panel discussion right after this.
I think some of sustainability to farmers just comes second nature. If you asked a farmer, are you sustainable? They'd probably look at you maybe a little funny and say, I don't think I'm doing anything that special, but it really is just what they do. We're all farmers, and our goal is taking the best care of our land, our cattle, our natural resources.
This is my sustainability story.
It's not as simple just to wake up one day and go, I want to be a conservation farmer. You're changing how your farming practice is done. You're changing your operation.
Farm Credit supported John and Kelly Watley as they shifted to more sustainable farming, improving the environment where they farm and live. Learn more at farmcredit.com/climate.
Welcome back. Republicans have long argued that the border must be secure before Congress can pass ag labor reform. We asked Jaime Castaneda with the National Milk Producers Federation how soon we could see some action on ag labor reform this Congress.
We know that Republicans would like to see something very specific on the border, and we believe that it is going to happen. But as you know, first, there was a lot of time spent on continuing resolution, the budget. Now that actually there is a lot of work on taxes, and we believe that that's the next task for Congress. I think that after that, definitely the border is going to be critical. Once actually that happens, and we sincerely hope that it happens soon, that I think that there will be an opportunity, like Cassandra was saying, an opportunity for begin working on a program for dairy. I think that we have been working on this issue for more than 15 years. And as you know, we passed a comprehensive immigration reform out of the Senate in 2013 with nearly 70 votes in the Senate. It's hard to believe in the current situation that we were able to do that. Unfortunately, the House never took that opportunity. We have actually been passing the Farm Worker Authorization Act now for 3 times in different Congresses, and actually has passed in a bipartisan way in the House, but actually has never moved in the Senate. So I believe that what we need to actually focus is in trying to improve the opportunities for dairy. I think that very few individuals, whether it's in Congress or the administration, understands that dairy doesn't have access to a program.
And Cassandra, one last question for you, ma'am, before we wrap. There is a possibility that some elements of a new farm bill could be included in the budget reconciliation bill that Republicans want to pass this year. What are the chances of that happening, in your opinion?
I think anybody who's watching the news closely with Congress back in session this week and focus is on reconciliation is that they are floating all options out there. And so it wasn't surprising to hear leaders in the Republican side in particular talking about the potential of pulling in certain elements of the Farm Bill into reconciliation. This is still early stages. I think it's a little difficult to say yes, is absolutely going to happen. The biggest barrier, I think, will tax muster with the birth rule. Will this be seen as extraneous matter? Will it be in? So, and if they do get down to that and they are able to pull in some of those programs, you have those provisions in place, you're talking just dollars and cents type of it, spending and cutting. What then happens to that rest of the Farm Bill? And what's the plan there? Will there be enough energy to coalesce around something to pass it? I think that's where Robo will really hit the road to on success.
Certainly a lot to be paying attention to here in the coming weeks, whether it's reciprocal tariffs, tariffs in general, or just an update on the Farm Bill. Cassandra, Jaime, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
We'll be back with more Agri-Pulse Newsmakers, but first, Lydia Johnson looks at the latest U.S. drought report in this week's Map It Out.
More than 44% of the continental United States is experiencing drought, according to the latest U.S. drought report. At least 20% of the country is expected to be in drought at any given time. Dust storms have pummeled the plains, causing interstate pileups in Kansas, wildfires in Oklahoma, and winter wheat damage in the Texas Panhandle. As you can see on this chart, deeper shades of oranges and reds show more extreme levels of drought. Central and western Texas, Arizona, Southern California, and Nevada are seeing the most extreme drought levels, a D4 rating as classified by the U.S. Drought Monitor. In Texas alone, about 85% of the state is seeing some drought, with 71% of the state's pasture being rated poor to very poor. By contrast, areas of northeastern Arkansas through Kentucky and parts of southern Virginia remain on the wet side after flooding in February. While dry conditions could help producers speed through spring planting, lack of soil moisture in the early stages of the growing season may hamper crop development. Read more in Noah Wick's story on agripulse.com. For Agri-Pulse, I'm Lydia Johnson.
Weeds, razor-thin margins, supply chain disruptions. American farmers need innovative solutions to tackle the threats that impact us all. Their yield is their livelihood and the food that feeds our families. That shouldn't be on the line, which is why the Modern Ag Alliance advocates for access to essential crop protection tools like glyphosate to keep the future of farming in secure, hard-working hands. Get the facts and see what could be at risk.
Clean Fuels Alliance America is leading the way toward cleaner air, stronger local economies, and reduced dependence on fossil fuels. The industry uses more than 1 billion pounds of soybean oil every month to produce clean fuels. Biodiesel, renewable diesel, and sustainable aviation fuel deliver immediate reductions in greenhouse gas emissions in heavy-duty transportation industries. We're growing better, cleaner fuels for today and tomorrow.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Agri-Pulse Newsmakers. Here's what's on the horizon for next week. The president's next proposed round of tariffs are expected to go into effect Wednesday. Both chambers of Congress will also be in session next week. The Senate Ag Committee will meet Tuesday about possibly amending the National School Lunch Act, which would let schools that participate in the program serve whole milk instead of only fat-free or low-fat milk. And finally, USDA's monthly agricultural prices report comes out Monday, and the department's yearly hatchery production report comes out Tuesday. Check out our website for the latest on all of this and more. For Agri-Pulse, I'm Andrew Haneke. Thanks for watching.
Newsmakers is a production of Agri-Pulse Communications. You can also find our new content on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to follow Agri-Pulse and our correspondents on social media to get breaking news and more. For agriculture, trade, food, environment, and regulatory news, your source is agripulse.com.